This year's Antalya Diplomacy Forum is happening in an environment where global trade tensions are dominating the news agenda. Investors from around the world, and indeed governments from around the world, as well as ordinary people, are watching with growing concern at how the talk of tariffs and retaliatory tariffs will impact their lives and livelihoods. Well, joining me now to discuss these issues and more is Burak Daglioglu. He's the President of the Investment Office at the Presidency of the Republic of Turkey. Burak, thank you so much for joining us. We know diplomacy is crucial not only for politics but also in the business world, isn't it? Tell us why gatherings like this is so important at ensuring global economic and business security.
Thank you. Greetings from Antalya. And definitely, as you mentioned, economic diplomacy and business diplomacy is a core area for many stakeholders. And as the President's Investment Office, this is one of our core mandates. And today's event forum is focusing on the global agenda, and the context is the reclaiming diplomacy in a fragmented world. So when we look at from this forum from the investors or business community perspective, international business community perspective, it's a very important agenda because of the current global economic agenda that we call as geoeconomics. So as we all know, investors avoid unpredictability. They would like to have a more stable and predictable environment, and Turkey is playing a crucial role in this regard. So when we look at the policies of Turkey under the leadership of President Erdogan in the last more than 2 decades, Turkey has been always an advocate of the stability, peace in the region. So when we define the region from the investors community perspective, it is generally Central and Eastern Europe, it is Northern Africa, and definitely Middle East. And in that geography, Turkey has become a magnet for the foreign direct investments in the last 2 decades, and it is playing a hub role for the region to access to the market. So especially in the last recent years, if we remember the Ukraine and Russian conflict or the other conflicts in the region, Turkey has always been a very active player to provide peace and stability. Just remember the grain deal. I mean, thanks to the efforts of the President Erdogan, it was a global problem and it was solved, in Istanbul. And if we recall those pandemic days, it has been 5 years, but we can still remember that the global supply chains were, under stress, and Turkey was one of the leading countries to provide, an environment where supply chains are working.
Now, I want to talk about foreign direct investment because looking at recent OECD figures, we're seeing a global decrease in foreign direct investment, but Turkey somehow has managed to see a growth in FDI. Explain that to us. Why are we seeing that trend in Turkey in particular?
Yeah, maybe a little more elaboration on those numbers. Last year in 2024, the global FDI declined around 8% according to the preliminary data. And in Turkey, the FDI was increasing around 6%. So, of course, as we mentioned, the role of Turkey is a regional role. And thanks to this regional role, investors see an opportunity for growth here. And what we hear from many international investors, Turkey is a fast-growing and resilient economy. So secondly, Turkey is a hub for talent. So investors are able to find all levels of talent. And today's topic is more relevant to this unique value proposition of Turkey. Turkey is at the nexus of the world. So geographically, we are at the nexus of 3 continents. But thanks to the recent policies in the last 2 decades by the President Erdogan, Turkey invested in infrastructure and superstructure of this country. It's a super connected economy. Just consider Turkish Airlines. It's the airliner flying to the most destinations globally. And more importantly, Turkey invested a lot more on the trade networks. Turkey is a member of Customs Union, and Turkey has 27 ratified free trade agreements. There are 3 more to be ratified, and this gives us a geography of 1 billion population. So including our domestic population, which is 85 million, and if we add those free trade geographies, investors are able to reach to 1 billion population without any restriction. So these are very unique value propositions for the global investors, and especially in this fragmented world, Turkey is offering a wide, stable trade region for the business community.
I know in this era of doom and gloom when it comes to the global economic outlook, do you have any positive news that you would like to share? What is your outlook? Are you more optimistic about what we can expect, not only for Turkey's economy, but also the global economy?
Sure, we have to be optimistic, in my opinion. Otherwise, it is not helpful for us. I have to put it. I'm pretty optimistic. So when we look at the investment agenda in Turkey, so it is driven by especially manufacturing projects, targeting the region, so export-led manufacturing projects, and we have an increasing number of technology investments. So I'm quite optimistic because there are endless opportunities in a wider region around the Turkey, and we see that the value proposition of Turkey is creating an opportunity for us. So maybe just one in sentence, talent and this unique geographic location gives us an advantage. So when we look at the early months of this year, we saw a rapid increase in the foreign direct investments. It is too early to make an analysis because monthly data may not be sufficient to make a longer-term perspective. But when we look at our pipeline, the investment agenda is full, very active, and in the following quarters, the global investors will hear more and more investment news from Turkey.